let's watch some videos about the Yamam. So this is an operation, a raid from the Yamam to go and arrest three allegedly Iranian spies in Israel. People in Israel that were, sending information and details to the Iranian regime. Israel have arrested several of these people. Mostly they were just lowlifes and scums of the earth, criminals and etc. that were going around and, selling locations of military bases, taking pictures of cars, doing a graffiti on the wall and burning cars down. But during the first attack of missiles into Israel from Iran, we knew that there were a few of these lowlifes that were actually going and filming military bases and telling them if they hit or not. So Israel has been conducting the espionage, mostly the Shabak. For those of you who don't understand, in Israel, the Shabak is like the FBI, the Mossad is like the CIA. So the ones who are in charge inside the internal security of Israel is usually going to be the Shabak, and they often work with each other. But in general, each one have his own territory and authority. And they often use the Yamam for these raids. Over here, they're arresting also a bunch of other guys who were, allegedly spying for Iran. And whenever you want to use the Yamam, I call it that way. Depends on the service you want to get. You're going to get the unit that you want to get. And the Shabak is a very good client. He can get these units. I want the Navy SEALs to do that. Can I ask for a special unit from that to do that? Whenever they use the Yamam, it's because they want someone either dead or kidnapped, because they're literally the best in doing that in the area of Israel. A fine-tuned war machine. And for those of you who don't know the Yamam, one of the coolest things about them that are extremely quick, extremely talented, and they train so hard that they trust their instincts so well. They're just pure fighters. I call the Yamam the UFC of special forces. They're literally versatile warriors that are just very good in what they're doing. To get in the Yamam in Israel, usually you need to be over the age of 25. So most people who go to the applications are former special forces, army officers, and etc. It's not that all of them came from the special forces, but most of them did. And what they do, they start this process of getting trained to see if they can become a Yamam member. Now you need to see these people already have rich life experience. Some of them came from units like Shaldag, like Sayeret Matkal, like Shayetet, like the Yamas, Duvdevan, and etc. Some of them came from Golani and whatever, all around the IDF or the police, and they handpick the best soldiers for their particular purpose. It doesn't mean that anyone who doesn't make that training is not good. It just means that for that particular training, they're the best at what they do. And what the Yamam does best is hostage rescue and basically taking down, basically shooting. They're just really good at shooting. A bunch of elite Olympic level warriors who are just very good at the art of shooting and killing. That's the Yamam. I honestly think they're probably one of the strongest units on the face of this earth. And when it comes to a gunfight, I think they're probably up there in the top, if not even the best. Funny story that I once had with the Yamam. I was in Gaza and we were inside Gaza during one of the hardest times of Gaza, and it was a cow poop show. And I used to sit at the end of the day with my friend Moshe, who later on died in an operation in Gaza. A great guy. And we used to sit and watch the sunset over the Gaza beach at the end of the night after we finished some missions. And it usually will get red. The sun will get red just before it touches the water, go on the horizon and disappear. And that was during the time that the movie Lord of the Rings just came out. I remember that quote, we used to say it all the time, where Legolas, I think, said that. The sun is red tonight, blood has been shed. Something like that. So we used to look at that and say, sun is red tonight, blood will be shed. And that was the reality in Gaza. People were dying every day. It was a war zone. I mean, as you can expect from the Gazans, they just don't want peace. These guys are just looking to kill one another or kill anything around them. And every day someone was dying. Sometimes from the IDF, most of the time from these terrorist organizations. So there were deaths around our area on a daily basis. And we'd sit there sometimes, just talk philosophy and look at that. And as I was going out, he went back to finish some of his stuff before he go to bed. And I thought, you know what, maybe I grab iced coffee. I really want iced coffee. And although in the military base, that's quite hard in Gaza to get some ice. I'll tell you that. Back then, at least. And we used to call it the delbik. It's like a special way that the IDF soldiers like to make coffee. They love it, and they hate it when officers do it. But anyway, I just loved it. So I went and I started the delbik and making myself my own coffee. And as I was walking back with the mug of coffee in my hand, I suddenly saw this pile of weapons, top military graded weapons, all kind of lasers and scopes and technology on it. There was something from the future, and I was a whole bunch of them on the floor, kind of piled up. And I was like, what is a bunch of futuristic weapons just doing on the floor with silencers and all this stuff? And we're talking back then, not today that everybody have it. Back then it was only the elite special units who had these stuff. So I came closer to kind of inspect it, just looking at it, and suddenly out of nowhere, I kid you not, a vicious attack dog just came out, looking at me like, "Whoa, Scooby, wait down, wait down. Let's be friends." And I took a step back, and these legends, they left the dog to guard their weapon. As they went inside to get some kind of an intel room because they were preparing for a mission, they came out, and suddenly I see there was a bunch of the Yamam guys, a bunch of Shabak and other IDF units, and they were just going to do one of the missions over there. You see, like I said, the Shabak or some units in the IDF, many times they will reach some kind of an obstacle that they are not fully equipped to handle. If it comes to hostage rescue or just a really pinned down bunch of terrorists that are just really hard to take them down without collateral damage, and you must send humans to go and do the job. Usually on these occasions, the Yamam will be your top pick. Your top pick. Undoubtedly 100%. Before the Matkal, before Shayetet, before the Divan, they will be your top pick. Just like I said, on top of the other units, they're more mature, they're much more trained, and they focus entirely on that purpose of becoming the best at what they do, and that is fighting. Many people like to think like who would win in a fight, Yamam or the SAS or the Delta Force, I don't know what. I would say these units are just completely different. In general, the SAS and the Delta Force, they're more global recon versatile kind. They will operate in the snow, they'll operate in the jungles of South America, in the deserts of Africa, in the Middle East, in urban, and everything. They're kind of much more versatile because these are the UK and the US, are empires, you could call it, that were involved, at least the UK, not anymore, but in general, they were involved in so many conflicts all around the globe, very, very far away from home. Israel doesn't really need that. Israel doesn't focus on that. Israel is more focused on the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. So they're focused on what's happening in their house, in their backyard. And for that, they became the best in the world in finding the right units and training for a specific role. You're the best at that, you're the best at that, and they don't cross platforms that much. I mean, you have a few units in the IDF like Matkal, Shaldag, airplanes, like Matkal, like Shaldag, like the Navy SEALs, Shahed 13, which will do recon, which will do urban fighting, which will go and operate outside of Israel. But and they do cross between counterterrorism to grabbing intelligence to going and marking targets and etc. I would say maybe Shayetet is quite versatile as well because they're a bunch of sailors first, and then they are commando elite units. So they do counterterrorism. They can go on hostage rescue when it comes on boats and on the sea and also on land. And for those of you who don't know, hostage rescue is probably one of the hardest, most complicated military operations there is. That's why you usually go for Yamam. They're literally the best at doing that. And all these people like Pierce Morgan, who loves to talk all the time, why isn't the IDF just sending their special forces, their Mossad, to go and rescue all the hostages in Gaza? They have no idea how complicated is a hostage rescue operation. One, we're not talking right now about the entire enemy territory behind enemy lines under the ground with all the booby traps they have. We're talking just one inside of a city, how difficult that is. A hostage rescue operation in New York, in London, inside your country is extremely difficult. Extremely. The odds are against you in so many ways. So not to talk about behind enemy lines. So Israel's dealing with the hostages in Gaza, all kind of potato heads like to say as if they know. They have no idea how military operation work like, and they just like to talk because people like to talk. But anyway, this is the Yamam. That's one of their cool operations. I love talking about these guys. I mean, in general, I just like making videos about these kind of things because that is my bread and butter, and I grew up in the Special Forces. I'm a former IDF officer and Special Forces, and I love these kind of stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, leave it in the comment. Tell me if you want to see more videos like this. I'll be more than happy to give you. And in general, guys, oh, don't forget, subscribe, like the whole shebang, and go check my Patreon for practical, direct ways to support this channel because after all, I am doing this for free and out of my own free time. Whew, I didn't take air through that whole sentence. But until then, guys, don't do anything stupid. And in general, just don't mess with the Yamam. That's a good advice. Yeah. See you next time. Oh, and a funny story about food. In the IDF, I found that one of the best agents for morale was good food. The better the food is, the higher the morale. And the way that worked in the IDF, the more dangerous your unit was or the base that you were in, the higher the chances for you to die, the better the food was. Undoubtedly, straight on, pure correlation. I mean, I probably had the best food in the IDF while I was in that place, in that position in Gaza. Crazy. That's because people literally died there every day. I think the only place that might have had better food was the submarines, but that's because their job sucks. Like literally, you're stuck in a small metal tube in a most hostile environment under the ocean. You're going for 30, 40, 60 days. Sometimes you're going to come back and then get cold and go again. And when you go back and all your friends sit around the bonfire or in the bar and start talking and sharing some kind of, combat stories and stuff like that, you can't say anything. Literally can't say. I had a friend from submarines and they wanted me to go to submarines for a while, and I came and said, no, hell no, I'm not going there. And my friend told me, listen, it's a cool job, you get to see really interesting stuff, but everything you do is just top classified. You can't talk about anything. So anyway, submarines probably have the best food in the IDF, but other than that, back then we had the best food. Because I remember one time when I was stationed in a bunker under the snow in the Khilmon, and that was during the choir times. Food was so bad that even rats and birds didn't want to touch the schnitzel that they were making. Literally, I wanted to strangle some of these chefs because they were just so bad at making food. It was the same ingredients. But anyway, I went too much talking about food in the IDF. Maybe I should do my own food review show of military bases. Yeah, the Iranians would love that.